Welcome to the BitGeek podcast. I'm your host, Ron Avis, and sitting on the couch to the left of me is my co-host,
Nick Wright.
And today we're going to talk about our 5 favorite Transformer toys, and
we're going to trash all over Transformers The Last Night.
Woo, boy, it's going to be a stinker.
Ugh.
All right, so Nick, we're gonna start out by we're gonna save the movie review for later. We're gonna start out happy, and then we'll work our way towards the movie review.
Start on a fun note.
And we'll go through we like doing our lists, and we're gonna go ahead and do another list. We're gonna go ahead and list our 5 favorite Transformers each from our childhood, and Transformer toys are like the seminal toy of my childhood.
Oh, absolutely.
It's way up there. I mean, we already had like our most memorable episode, and Transformers made its way onto that list. But I mean, right at number 1 is always going to be Transformers for me. I just found them so much fun. It's like you're getting 2 toys in one. You got the robot and you got the toy. I mean, you got the robot and the vehicle, which is 2 toys in one. It's awesome.
And there's always the excitement as soon as you open it up of trying to figure it out, how to transform it.
Yeah,
instructions.
I'm proud to say
Can't do that anymore.
No, hell no. Nowadays, you got to have like
unless you get the one that just is like a flip and it's done.
Yeah, well,
like because they're so hard now. That's like a selling point, like 2-step transformation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the ones that Logan gets now are like that's the ones I gotta play with.
The hard ones.
He gets those rescue bots where like it literally is just like a spring loaded transformation.
Done.
Yeah, and it's great. There were some difficult Transformers. I'm trying to think of like one that like was a little trickier. I mean, the Gestalts sometimes can be tricky.
Like one of the 6 changer.
Oh,
I forget his name.
Yeah, the triple changers, like the Astro Train was like a tricky one. But I mean, you can still figure it out. It still wasn't difficult. And then you could put your decals and stuff on. That was always fun. You want to go ahead and do that next. I was never great at putting the decals on.
Yeah, I always like really took my time and I was so upset too. Like you're so carefully like trying to stick like a headlight on or something.
Oh yeah.
And if it's skewed a little bit, I'm like trying to peel it off and making it right.
No, a lot of mine had like skewed headlights. I just couldn't. I'd like to this day, anytime like for Logan, like when we got a Lightning McQueen bed, we had a bunch of decals to stick on. I was like, Laura, you do it. I don't want to ruin it. So, but just lots of fun, and of course the TV show just made it even better. It was just a big commercial. You'd get really excited. Usually you'd see it first on the show, and then you'd head to the toy store, and then there they were most of the times. So we're going to go ahead and list our 5 favorite each.
Who's going to start?
I think you should start first.
I should start. I don't remember like last time you.
I don't remember either.
Anyway,
but you're like the visitor of the house, the guest, so you go first.
Definitely. I think my most favorite one was Soundwave. And interestingly enough, I didn't ever get him like new when I was a kid. I ended up at one point getting kind of like a worn out. I don't want to say busted up. He wasn't really broke, but he was well played with. Probably like borrowed him, well not borrowed, but traded him for something. I don't even know like what I gave the other kid to get Soundwave, but
Laserbeak, Ravage.
Oh yeah, and in the toy, he was always the coolest one because of his voice.
We can concentrate the energy into energon cubes and store them in the new space cruiser.
Yeah, he had that distinct voice that I know when I was a kid. one of the main reasons why I loved Soundwave was the opportunity to mimic that voice. I couldn't sound like Megatron or like Prime or anything, but I could kind of make my voice sound like Soundwave a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, those were always fun. I remember I did get Soundwave new. I got him. Like I kind of like tricked my mom into buying him. Like we were going out to buy clothes for her. It was like a shopping trip for her.
You tricked her?
Well, I didn't trick her as much as I nagged her until we like stopped at Toys R Us because there was this strip mall that was right by Toys R Us, and where all the places she liked to buy clothes. Yeah. So we went in there, and I saw Soundwave, and I was like, I gotta have it. So she bought him for me, and I remember like I couldn't wait to get home. Like I'm taking him out of the packaging. And I'm like, she's shopping a little bit. I'll sit down on the floor. I pull out the box a little bit. I start taking pieces out, and she's like ready to get up and move. So I'm like collecting all my stuff again. Like, oh no, like I want to play with them so bad. Yeah. And so that went on and on. So I think I eventually just like put Soundwave back into the styrofoam and just played with Laserbeak for a while.
Yeah.
Because he came with Soundwave. Buzzsaw, sorry. Yeah. Laserbeak was the red one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so was Buzzsaw even really in the cartoon?
Yeah, not as much as Laserbeak, but yeah.
Yeah, Laserbeak was his main man, really. Yeah. I mean, Ravage and Laserbeak, those were like the main... Oh, and Rumble and Frenzy, of course. But yeah, Soundwave is a great, great pick. I love it. And how 80s, man. That cassette like tape deck.
Yeah.
And it was pretty good detail, really. And it was about the size of a tape recorder. So
it was. And I remember one time when I was a kid, like... family went bowling or something, and I brought the Soundwave I had, and I acted like it was a real tape player, that like, hey, I'm listening to my tape player.
Are you like listening to it?
And it didn't it seems like the Japanese version like actually came with headphones, I think.
They always get the cool stuff. It doesn't surprise me,
but I feel like it did, and because there was a little hole, like a port that you could plug in headphones, I think. But yeah.
I mean, I suppose like he wasn't that realistic because he was blue. I remember like Blaster, the Ghetto Blaster, was like red and yellow.
Yeah.
It was like, but yeah, the Soundwave is a great pick, man. I would have claimed him for myself, but
I snagged him.
You snagged him. You liked him that much more.
Which is funny because you actually got him new. But anyway, your turn.
I got him new, but like it was sweeter for you when you finally did get him, I imagine.
Yeah.
Because like. That anticipation, like, was it everything you'd hoped to be, or was like his limbs too wobbly and not all that?
He was
British?
Pretty loose.
Yeah, that's the thing about those Transformers, and his legs would kind of like they were real. There was a lot of bends and folds in them. So
and his neck was kind of loose too. Like
so he's always kind of doing like that. He's just being lazy. Like it's cool.
Yeah, I found that if you kind of like turn his head like to the side a little bit, then
it would kind of stick.
It would hold there. So I'd put him in like dramatic pose,
very dignified, very noble. But he was a really important character in the show too, because he was kind of like Megatron's number 2.
Yeah.
He was really important in the show.
Megatron could trust him where he couldn't trust Starscream.
Yeah, he was constantly worrying about the other ones double crossing him, but there was kind of an honor to Soundwave. Yeah. So, you almost kind of wish he was a good guy.
Yeah, like even in the movie, when Megatron's like dying, he's like, Soundwave, don't leave me.
Yeah.
Fine, I'll pick him up.
Yeah, right. And he carries him off. So, yeah, that was a good pick. Go on to my first pick?
Yeah, go ahead, yours.
All right, so, oh gosh, it's really hard. Like, you started out so strong. I think I'm going to go with Metroplex for my first.
Oh, wow. You already, like, going to, like, what was that, like, season 3 or something?
Because it was close to the movie, right?
Yeah.
Had the movie come out yet? Or had Metroplex just come out? Because there was that scene in the movie.
It's around the same time. Yeah, because in the movie, we all knew who Metroplex was, because in the movie they were like transforming like the city, like bring the defenses up, and we're all going like, it's Metroplex! Oh my god, it's happening! And it wasn't.
Nah, it wasn't. It was just a transforming city, which is how they build Metroplex. Was he was a city, which is. I mean, how do you compete with that? I mean, there was Omega Supreme before him, and Omega was always kind of the he's so powerful and so strong. You can't even use him in any of the episodes because like once Omega came, it was like, what are the Decepticons gonna do?
Yeah.
They'd bring in like Trypticon or something. Or Trypticon came in with Metroplex, didn't he?
Yeah,
around that same period.
Yeah.
There always had to be an evil for the good. Like
that was another one I longed for that I never got.
I had him. He walked.
You had everything.
Thanks, Mom. I don't know. Like we probably didn't have like groceries for weeks at a time, but like I had plenty of Transformers.
That was one. Just you'd look at the box in the store and just look in awe.
Yeah, and again, he wouldn't know that great, but Metroplex was. I mean, there was just something about Metroplex. He looked really cool as a robot. He was fun to play with as, the scene. He had a couple of different forms he could take. Like, he was like the rolling platform.
Yeah, kind of a armored kind of vehicle kind of thing.
Yeah, and then, of course, he was the city. And there was all the little compartments. And it was neat because the weapons that he came with became a robot within itself.
That's right. I forgot. All those guns turned into a little robot.
The guns turned into a robot, so you got like a bonus toy. And then I loved that little black car.
It was cool.
And oh my God, I can't think of his
Mark
name.
would know his name. I don't.
Mark's gonna yell it out like right as soon as
he's
we
doing
say
it right now.
Yeah. But yeah, I love that little car. It was like perfect size to take with you somewhere. You stick him in your pocket. So I really enjoyed him. In the show, like he didn't really have much to do.
Yeah,
in the
I
show.
don't really remember him in the show at all.
It's kind of like Omega. I mean, like they needed Omega to blast off to like into space. Like he had a purpose. He was like their spaceship.
Yeah, I remember Omega Supreme in the cartoon.
Yeah, and but with Metroplex, like he was just a fun, cool toy, and that's just about it. Like I remember, how each season you get those like little fold out papers that would show you, like one side would be the Autobots and the other side would be the Decepticons. Right. And seeing that Metroplex like taking up that big chunk of real estate on that, and you look at him, you're like, I don't know who that is, but I want that. Yeah, that's badass.
Had like all the smaller minicons like all over him.
Yeah, they could because they had ramps and things. Yeah. You could just like pull them up. Like you couldn't fit like a medium sized Transform, but the little mini ones were great.
Yeah.
Like I think like was Wheelie in the pic? No, because that wouldn't make sense time wise. But yeah, Metroplex was super awesome.
They had a bunch of Protectobots, I think, all over him. There's like the helicopters on that little helipad, and
that was around the same time as the Protect. Yeah. That was the Gestalt, I guess, for that season.
Yeah.
But yeah, didn't you say like was it Mark that like rode his bike or something up to the toy store?
We used to ride our bike to the mall all the time when we were kids, like in the summer when school's out, and yeah, Mark. What he was like, he had, I guess, some spare cash somehow. Like I don't know if he saved it, like from his birthday or whatever. I don't know.
It's a good chunk of change,
but
man.
Yeah. And so he's on the fence. So he's thinking about buying Metroplex, and I'm just like, I want him to so bad.
You're that little devil on his shoulder, like you don't need anything else.
If you get Metroplex, I'll carry him home for you because we're on our bikes, and it's this giant box and it's awkward, Oh,
yeah.
So I offered to take him home, and so he's in like the Toys R Us bag and it's like hung over on my handlebars,
and I'm like trying, against you.
Yeah, I'm trying to pedal and it's like beating on my knees.
You didn't feel a thing though, man.
But no, yeah, I couldn't wait to see this thing.
So were you like itching to get him out of the box before Mark could get his turn?
Well, I mean, I had to. It was his. I lugged it home. I kind of think we actually kind of took turns because it was kind of beating around on my knees so much.
Oh, I can't imagine. I remember the days when you'd ride your bike everywhere, and I've never had to carry anything that big.
Oh, yeah, it was huge.
But yeah, Metroplex, just a fun toy to play with. He's like a legendary Transformer, and it's funny that he really didn't have the benefit of having all that much to do in the cartoon to establish that, but it was just because he was so big. He was like the big one. So that's my first. That's who I'm leading off with. Who is your second?
All right. Well, I guess going straight from Soundwave to Ravage. I loved Ravage.
Ravage, man. For the longest time, he was my favorite.
Yeah, Ravage was great, and I lost him at one point. That's like one of those Transformers that I had to replace because I don't know what happened to my Ravage, and finally, I ended up like I don't know if it was like at a flea market or something. I don't remember, but
I don't know what happened to my Ravage either.
Yeah, he got lost, and I ended up finally replacing him at one point. But yeah, I loved Ravage.
He was great. I mean, he was like a little pet.
So cool in the cartoon.
Oh
you
yeah,
know.
he was like the official mascot of the Decepticons.
Yeah.
Really, any kind of spy work that needed to be done. I mean, Ravage got it done. Like a lot of times, the Decepticons would kind of fail in what they were doing, but Ravage always kind of got his part okay.
Ravage, eject, operation, retrieval.
Oh no, Decepticons! I've memorized the formula, so once I rip this up, there's no way the Decepticons can learn to make the antimatter. You're too late, Ravage. The information's already been destroyed.
Excellent, Ravage.
Yeah.
You know, if there was some intel, like, you know, you could count on Laserbeak and Ravage. You know, Rumble and Frenzy were always kind of like comic relief in a way, but
Right.
But I mean, Ravage was pretty badass, man. He didn't mess around. Ravage didn't play.
It was hard to pose him though because he's so skinny.
Yeah, well, he had to be a cassette, so if
you couldn't like spread the legs out, you know, they're just
they just kind of like, you know, I'm making gestures with my hands. You can't really tell in the audio podcast, but they just kind of like slid apart like scissors almost.
yeah.
And you know, and then
Just
the
kinda
feet were
lean him
posable
up
too.
against something.
Yeah, well, you could make him stand.
Yeah, he would stand.
He would be any fun to play with. I mean, you could always do like one of these things where you could pose him like that, but.
I pretty much always had him in the same pose, like one leg's like up, like that, you know, runs down. Like
yeah, and his neck, like the way it would kind of go up and down, he had that cool pose.
Yeah, like he's stalking somebody.
Like he's stalking, yeah. So that the cassettes were always really pretty cool. They got a little sillier as they went along, like the Bat and the Rhino.
Oh, I like Rat Bat.
They're good, but you know, I don't know, like they're classics. For a reason.
Steeljaw, the lion. Yeah, I never really thought he looked terribly much like a lion, but I mean he was okay. Yeah, blasters weren't as good as Soundwaves, I don't think.
No, not at all. And well, that's because like Soundwaves were more characters than the Blasters cassettes didn't. I don't think really had a chance to do anything.
Yeah.
So maybe if they had a little more to do in the cartoon, we would have been more fond of them, or I would have been more fond of them.
Yeah, I didn't even remember him in the cartoon except like the movie. Saw him in the movie a little bit.
Just getting mowed down or something. Yeah, Ravage is a great pick. You know, he didn't really have any dialogue. He was a small little toy, but he brought a lot of joy to both of us.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those little smaller toys you could just take with you anywhere. You just slide him in your pocket. Mm-hmm. And so you had Ravage before you had Soundwave.
I did, yeah. I actually had the pack. It was like Ravage and Rumble.
Oh yeah, they did come in little 2-packs, didn't they? Yeah. So I guess it was Laserbeak and Frenzy, and then Ravage and Rumble, and then you got Buzzsaw with.
I hope I'm not switching the two up. I think that's right.
I think you're right. Yeah. Did Rumble and Frenzy actually come with the little pile driver things in the toy? Or
no,
I didn't think so. It was funny how they would kind of transform like their arms into those pile drivers.
Yeah, and we won't even get into how the cartoon swapped the colors and made Rumble the blue one instead of the red one.
Yeah, I don't know. How do you do that?
Yeah, the funny thing is, as a kid seeing the cartoon, because there's this whole controversy over like, you know, Rumble's red, Rumble's blue, you know, whatever side you want to take, and I never even saw it that way. It, like, I didn't pay any attention that the cartoon had miscolored it. It didn't even matter to me.
It didn't, because it was their voices that matched, I guess, who they were.
You really only ever really saw one at a time. I feel like you didn't really ever see both of them. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember Frenzy doing anything.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't it usually Rumble anyway? Like if a dam had to be broken up, or
Rumble would be doing the pile drivers.
Yeah,
Frenzy never did anything.
Frenzy never really did anything, and you know, Rumble would do the pile drivers, and it was useful more than once. But they had to give him something to do, I guess, because Ravage and Laserbeak were clearly Soundwave's favorite. There was a pecking order, you know. So yeah, that's a good pick. Go from Soundwave to Ravage.
Now, what you got?
For my number 2, I'm gonna go with Devastator.
Oh man, so 5 or 6 6 at once.
6. He was the 6. Was Predaking 6 as well?
No, he was 5.
Was he 5?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think Devastator was the
only six.
unique one was
Yeah.
6, and everybody else it was then a core with like the limbs.
I was always drawn to the really big ones. Like there was just something really neat about him. And Devastator was the first Gestalt. He was the original, and I don't know what it is about those toys, but I could honestly probably do a whole like 5 on just Gestalts.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They were my favorite. They were so cool. And even though Devastator was like really difficult to pose and play with because their arms, like he had like high heels almost, you know.
Yeah, you couldn't really pose him much at all.
And I feel like I want to say like Hook I even broke once or twice trying to get him into that position to form the Gestalt. It was neat how they called upon him in the cartoon. And most of my list is like based on mostly the cartoon. Like if I really liked the character in the cartoon, then the toy like didn't have to be amazing. It just had to allow me to be. I just needed that analog. I just had to have the toy to be that character.
Speaking of the Gestalts, one of my favorite cartoons I think is the one that introduced the Stunticons.
I love the Stunticons.
I really like the Stunticons.
I really like the whole like rivalry with Optimus Prime and Motormaster. I thought that was really kind of cool. And I was also
the Autobots like dressed up as them.
I love that episode.
Infiltrate.
Yeah, and they had to pretend like they could be a Gestalt, so like they were holding it together for like a few minutes, like using one of the Transformers' powers. Like I forget who had that magnetic ability, but they were holding them together somehow.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah,
maybe it was like Wheeljack or something. Mark's probably once again
he's yelling at us. You got it all wrong,
fools. But yeah, that's a classic series. Like the aerial bots were okay, but the Stunticons were fantastic because it was like for a while it was Autobots were cars and Decepticons were typically like planes or something.
Yeah, that was the first time where they switched it up.
Yeah, they got to switch it up. Like
the Autobots could never fly, really.
No, they always had to get to where they were going on like by driving. They would do a little convoy. They would show up with
a jetpack every now and then, like they'd strap on a jetpack and fly.
Yeah, the Decepticons could usually always fly, I guess, because they were
even
jets.
if they weren't jets, like Soundwave, they could always Decepticons could fly.
They could always retreat
for whatever rule. The Decepticons fly, Autobots can't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Unless you're a vehicle that can fly.
Right, and then they would change it to the jets. Like you always had like those 3 jets, like Skywarp, Starscream, and
well, but that's Decepticons.
But they were Decepticons.
Any Decepticon can fly.
Any Decepticon can fly, even if they didn't change into a plane. But yeah, so like for the first time, you had that kind of swapping, where you had Autobots that were planes. So it was kind of like So like, but not to be outdone, the Decepticons had the Stunticons, and they were real wild and goofy and crazy, and like did all the crazy stunts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked their personalities, and I could easily put Minosaur in there instead of Devastator. Without a doubt.
But Devastator is the original.
OG, yeah. Devastator was fun. I had all of them. It took forever.
I think I only had Mixmaster back in the day, at least. I mean, I've got them all now, but...
It took a long time because... I don't know if... Was Toys R Us... Was it even open at that time? I guess it could have been. No, it was. It had to. But I got a lot of them from, not department stores, but like CVS type places.
Yeah.
Walgreens. Sometimes you'd go into those types of stores and they'd have the smaller Transformers. So I got a couple of them from there, and it took a long time, but I finally got all 6 of them. When I did manage to... That's when I broke Hook. That was kind of heartbreaking because I actually got all 6 of them.
Like the first time?
Yeah, the first time I was putting them all together, I broke Hook in 2. So like I couldn't... I could because he had that little like purple clip that you could put him in.
Yeah.
So he could become Devastator, but I could never play with him as like the regular Hook character again.
Yeah, he's like half himself.
He's like decapitated at the waist. But yeah, Devastator was great in the cartoon. He was a cool toy, even if he wasn't all that functional and it would fall apart if you tried playing with him. So that's my number 2. Like I say, I'm going with the bigs. I'm starting out big with the bigs.
Yeah. All right. So
who's your number 3?
Number 3 for me, I'm gonna say Prowl. I think mostly because he was like my second Transformer I ever got, but like the first, kind of like bigger one.
Yeah.
Not big like Metroplex big, but that in like the full blown box instead of like the blister card.
Like Optimus, I guess for a while was like the biggest one, right?
Yeah,
and that
because of his trailer.
But they were that scale though, because they could actually roll up into his trailer, and so like they were like the bigger ones.
And Prowl is the one that I remember, carefully putting the headlight stickers on.
It's your first interaction with the decals.
And I've still got my original Prowl, but he's seen better days. Yeah, because the hood, not the hood, but the top, the roof, of the vehicle is like it broke off long time ago. He snapped into, because any of them it seemed that would spin at the waist, will swivel around at the
a lot of them
for
did
transformation.
Yeah,
that peg would just break, and so he was just broke in half.
Yeah, they a lot of them had that same kind of transformation where they would swivel and like their arms would kind of do a this
fold in underneath
the hood, but just
had the
just
little
like
wing doors.
Just like, I love the wing doors.
Yeah.
Those are great. It's a great touch. I don't think I ever got Prowl, so you got me on that one.
Prowl's great. I really like my Prowl. I guess that's why he's also the most beat up Transformer I've got, and I think that's a testament to that, is how much I liked him.
Yeah, if you played with him a whole bunch, then naturally he's gonna have a little wear and tear, and if he's still like tight, you probably didn't play with him all that much. But that's cool, man. That's special. You still got him.
I'll have to pull him out, see if I can find him, and maybe try to take a picture of him, because he's seen better days.
I would like to see in his awful wrecked glory.
He's somewhere.
Like right down here somewhere.
he's in a box somewhere. I'll find him.
The original box?
No. Don't have the Prowl original box. No. He's.
Do you have any of those old boxes, like those beautiful grid boxes?
Maybe reproduction, maybe not original, but looks like the original.
For the longest time I was keeping those, but I lost them. I don't know. I'm sure my mom finally made me throw them away.
Yeah, there's a few I've got that were like a reproduction box.
We've talked in the past about how we like to keep boxes, and I was a hoarder for boxes even back in the day. But I have my own place now. I can storage them away.
Yeah.
You can only justify keeping so many boxes at your parents' house. So what in the cartoon did he have like a unique ability? Because he had Mirage
in the original cartoon. Mark would know. I don't really remember his.
I feel like we need Mark on Skype or something as like the expert guy to like
Mark phone in. But,
or we could just pull up Wikipedia or something.
I know in some of the newer comic books he's been made out to be kind of a jerk. And it's kind of funny because it seems like everybody hates Prowl in the newer comics.
Oh, like really?
IDW comics. You'll have to read those.
I intend to. Like, I'm sure I could, get him easily digitally.
He's so calculating, and anyway, everybody hates him.
Everybody hates. So that's his special ability, is to make people hate him. Yeah. Cool. That's a good one. And if we're gonna go there, then I will go for my third one. Another car of the same size and generation was a Sideswipe.
Oh yeah, the Lamborghini.
It was the 80s, and there was no car more beloved than the Lamborghini. That Lamborghini Countach from the 80s I can close my eyes and think of the 80s, and a Lamborghini Countach on a Trapper Keeper materializes right in front of my face. A Lamborghini was the coolest. I was really big into like Hot Wheels, as we established in a previous episode. Like, I liked cars, I liked Hot Wheels. There was another reason why I was so really into the Transformers, is because they were like cars and robots. So, you could play with them as robots, become a car, and then I would have just as much fun playing around the house as the cars.
Right, yeah.
And so Sideswipe was, my dream car. To this day, I would, love to get a Lamborghini Countach. I'm sure I still couldn't afford one, even though they're like 30 some odd years old by now. But Sideswipe was a sort of an interesting character in the cartoon, because he had like a brother, kind of, and Sunstreaker.
Oh yeah.
When we're done with them, they're gonna wish they'd never been assembled. All right, bro, let's go. Okay, Big Knives, let's see how tough you are. Hey, check out this move. Yeehaw!
I understand it now, but back in the day, I never really understood it because they acted like they were twins and they didn't look anything alike. And
No, they didn't look anything alike.
and even their cars, I didn't really get it that Sunstreaker was actually a Lamborghini also because he had like all the extra like stuff on the back and
Yeah, he looked like a hot rodded up version of a Lamborghini.
I didn't really see it as a kid, you know.
Yeah, the front is a little similar, and the doors or whatever. But yeah, you're right. Like there was no real Lamborghini, I don't think, that looked like that in real life. But yeah, those two characters kind of played off of each other, and I thought they were fun. And so like I can't really think of Sideswipe without thinking of Sunstreaker. And so I had Sideswipe as a kid. He was one of the first ones I got, and played with him all the time. He was a neat toy. And I just think so. I'm so fond of Sideswipe mainly because he was a Lamborghini. Anytime I could get my hands on a Lamborghini toy, whether it be a Hot Wheel or like one of those like car kits like that you could build, like little plastic models. Mm-hmm. So it just made sense that I was gonna get a Transformer that was a Lamborghini. I wasn't gonna miss out on that. It was my favorite color, red.
It was really cool.
Yeah, and he was a neat. And I don't, he had the cool like little shoulder rocket that had the real springy, loady, like the real firing action. So you kind of got that. I think Hound had something like that.
Yeah, he did. Mm-hmm.
Wheeljack, I believe, had one or two of them.
And most of them did, really.
You're probably right. The Jets had that action, I know. That's like something you don't really see all that often.
Probably had two of them.
Probably had two of them, yeah. So, that fact that you had that little, you could do some target practice with the thing. And I had tons and tons of fun.
Those little missiles were like the first thing I lost.
Oh, they always are the first thing you lose. As soon as you, like, snap them off that little plastic, grid or whatever, like, you almost lose it immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think you actually bought me Sideswipe when they did a reproduction.
Like a birthday present or something?
I think so, yeah. And I remember being like so like tickled because it was like I had him again.
Yeah.
And I think I may still have the original, but it also really beaten up. Just everything's rough around the edges. The stickers are peeling off. But when I got that, fresh, brand new, fresh paint Sideswipe, I was just like so excited. Like it was just like being a kid again.
Yeah. Yeah, those reissues were cool.
Really neat. So yeah, that was my number 3. Nick, what was your number 4?
I want to say Cliff Jumper, and I mean he was one of the small ones, but he was cool because he was like Bumblebee, but not like Bumblebee. He was sleeker than Bumblebee. He had like the little spoiler in the back. He was sportier. Yeah, he was a lot sportier. The mold for his face was cooler than Bumblebee's. Bumblebee's was real generic,
Bumblebee was kind of square, whereas kind of plain, but Cliff Jumper had a little pizzazz to him.
Yeah, and in the cartoon, I mean, he was Casey Kasem was his voice. I mean, that's how cool is that?
I didn't realize that until you had told me that recently.
You didn't know that?
I don't know. I don't think so, man. Yeah. Casey Kasem, because I mean, like I think Casey Kasem and doing voice acting, I think of Shaggy from Scooby Doo.
Oh man, he was so many.
Yeah,
I don't even really know the list, but he was quite a few.
That's cool. But yeah, Cliff Jumper is an excellent toy. I had him as well, and we mentioned the small ones, and because I think we have a lot of memories of playing with the small ones, because you could take them wherever you wanted to go.
Yeah.
You could take them to school, or if you're like in the back seat in the car, like you can't lug along your Devastator or your Metroplex, but you could grab a Cliff Jumper and a Ravage and just have a good old time.
Yeah, and I mean they're like It's like those little penny racers. They're about the size of those. Remember those?
I remember those. Yeah, they're like
Roll 'em
exactly the
around.
same size.
And they had
as
the
a penny
little
racer.
real rubber tires.
Mhm.
You know,
Love the rubber
They
tires.
don't do that anymore. There's
No.
plastic tires.
All those old Transformers had those rubber tires.
Just plastic wheels. That's all it is.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a choking hazard. Like kids,
Yeah.
we were stupid kids. I guess like a lot of us would choke to death on
And
rubber tires.
They even had like it was even printed on the tires like I want to say Goodyear, but it wasn't Goodyear. It was like Cybertronian or something like that. Mark would know.
A lot of love, a lot of detail.
Yeah, a lot of detail. And like Primes, I mean, he actually had tread on his tires.
Yeah, sure did.
The Bumblebee and Cliffjumper were so small they didn't have tread. But
Cliffjumper was cool too because like wasn't he kind of like a maverick? He kind of would always want to go out on his own. He had something to prove. It seems like in the cartoons.
See if you can locate the Decepticons.
Just turn me loose, Prime. I'll sniff 'em out.
I'm going too. I want to boot some Decepticon right in his turbocharger.
Easy, Cliff Jumper.
I don't really remember. Was he kind of the hot-headed one?
I think so, yeah.
Like a Raphael kind of thing?
I think he was kind of like the Raphael character, like it seems like he was always egging along Spike or whatever, like to kind of...
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm misremembering, but Cliffjumper was really cool too because he had that personality. And I guess if you're gonna have Casey Kasem as a voice, you better put him to use.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was a featured character in a lot of episodes. That's a good pick, man.
Thanks.
So that was your fourth, right?
Yeah. So what's yours?
Let's see. Fourth, I'm gonna go with Dinobot. I'm gonna go with Grimlock.
The Dinobots,
Grimlock, yeah.
Every Dinobot was so cool, but Grimlock, of course, the top of them.
He was the alpha. He was I guess the smartest of the dumb ones.
Yeah.
He was for sure the leader of the Dinobots, and the Dinobots as a collective were interesting because they kind of had their own agenda, sort of. They were affiliated with the Autobots, but they really only came around when they were needed.
Dinobots, we've got a job for you.
Me, Grimlock, no like orders.
Me, Slag, no like anything. We really need your help. Why won't you give us a hand?
Me don't know why not.
Yeah.
And like they were klutzy and clumsy, and the Autobots kind of just put up with them as a means to an end, because they were the muscle. If you had a Devastator to fight, you got to call in the Dinobots.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They may not have been, for what they lacked in intelligence, they made up for in strength. And Grimlock was a really funny, lovable character.
Big Grimlock.
Kick butt. Yeah. And I love in the movie when he's like trying to get his clumsy dinosaur ass up that ramp, and they're like pushing him up into the shuttle. Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
It's just little scenes like that. And I want to say, didn't Grimlock get a chance to shine a little bit in a later episode? Around, I don't know.
Well, I don't really remember it, but there was one where he got smart. Like he was wearing like some.
Oh yeah, he had like a little like crown thing that made him smart. I remember that. That was interesting. That's kind of sad that like he became stupid again. It was one of the few stories that had a little emotional depth.
It's been
to
so
it.
long since I've seen the cartoons.
I want to say there was like an episode where he was. Maybe that was it. I don't know. Like the cartoons are such a distant memory anymore.
Yeah.
But Grimlock was fun to play with, and he was such a cool functioning dinosaur. He had like the little T-Rex arms that you could pose, and the mouth open up and close, and he looked awesome as a robot. And just like you said, all the Dinobots are great. Like you couldn't just get Grimlock; you had to get like Slag, Snarl, Swoop, Sludge. And I think like Sludge was one of those ones that I actually found in a flea market at a later time.
Sludge was my first one.
Yeah, Sludge was really cool too. Like I could go with Sludge as he's the second, I think, my second favorite. And I like Swoop a lot too.
Snarl. I always wanted Snarl because he was the Stegosaurus, and that was like my favorite dinosaur as a kid for whatever reason.
But Snarl, like, I hated that his head split apart.
Yeah,
I didn't like that because like that never really closed back properly,
Yeah.
and his he was cool though. But I remember that head being a problem.
Yeah.
But I think I had all the Dinobots. I got them all eventually.
Yeah, I've got them all now, but
But Grimlock also too is kind of special because I got him from like Santa Claus one year.
Yeah.
I think I told the same story in the fondness episode, the toy lines, where I was away from home and I didn't think I was gonna, I didn't think Santa was gonna visit me because I was somewhere else. And I woke up in the morning and there he was. There was Grimlock. So the Dinobots, for sure. It's like the Gestalts. Like, you can't mention one without all the others. But Grimlock was definitely my favorite, and one of my favorites. He was a fun character to play with. Matches my theme of the character was fun. I had fun being Grimlock, and the toy was actually really cool too. Mm-hmm. So that's my number 4. Nick, what's your 5th?
I'm gonna say Hot Rod. And the toy, the movie toys, the characters in the movie look so much sleeker and than what the toys that you actually got. Most of them were really kind of garbage. But
I remember the toys and the
like.
legs being stiff. A lot of the characters didn't really have posable legs.
Yeah, I mean, like the Galvatron toy was awful.
I remember Rodimus Prime really not being a very
Yeah, that year it just. They were going downhill. They were just, none of them were as cool as previous years. But nonetheless, I still liked Hot Rod, and even still, when later on he came out as a Target Master and he had like the gun that would.
I remember that. Yeah,
that was cool.
The Target Masters as a line was really fun too. I don't have any of the movie generation on my list because for a lot of the same reasons, like you said, I feel like they hit a wall and they just really didn't have any good toys anymore.
They were,
and maybe they just ran out of those. They were an original toy line that like Hasbro bought, right, and brought over, so they had all those molds. Yeah. So maybe they just ran out of those molds. Those were really good toys, and once they ran out of molds and characters to be those molds,
it's like they didn't know how to make good ones themselves or something. Didn't. I don't know.
They managed to stay around for a little while with like the double changer, the triple changers, and the 6-shot and the Target Masters and the Head Masters. But it's a shame that those really fun characters from the movies didn't manage to make good toys. And I never had Hot Rod. I had Rodimus, but he was he was a fun character in the movie. He would have been fun to play with.
Yeah, I mean, and he still had the rubber tires like the other ones, and so he's still fun to when you're playing him as the car and roll him around everywhere.
I didn't love the futuristic cars, man. I liked
that one. I liked though, like Blur. I didn't really like so much because he had that little front piece that it just came off, and then you don't do anything with it. Never was a fan of pieces that you couldn't do anything with. They had to take them off or on to transform.
Yeah, you gotta hang on to it. Do something with it.
It's supposed to be like a shield or something. It's like, well, I don't want him to hold this.
Yeah, you want everything to stay put on the Transformer. Like, have it go somewhere or do something. Yeah. Like the doors flipping out as like cool wings.
Like Prime's fists. I mean, that's like the first thing people lose.
Yeah, well,
at least it had a place that you could put it, like
right.
Chest,
yeah, the chest opened up, you could stick it in there, and that's how I think the only reason I kept them for so long is because of that little area that you could put them.
Yeah,
but that's a good point too. Like a lot of those had those fists you had to keep up with.
And Soundwave, his weapons became batteries that you could actually put in his back.
Oh, that's a great touch.
Yeah, that was cool.
I much preferred the ones where there was like little slits and you'd like Soundwave where you just kind of push the little slider and then the fist came out of whatever.
Yeah.
That way you wouldn't have to lose those hands.
But Blur's shield thing, I didn't like that. But
I just like I said, I remember the stiffness of the legs. Like they all none of them were very fun to play with.
Yeah.
So, but Hot Rod
it's just you just extend it out and there's their legs.
There's their legs. Like flip a toe up or something, and then they could stand.
Flip out a foot, extend, flip out arms.
Rodimus was kind of a fun toy because he did have that little trailer that popped out the gun.
Oh yeah.
And he could kind of stand behind it and pose it around and it was reminiscent of Optimus Prime how he had his trailer, but on a much smaller scale. But Hot Rod was supposed to be the popular character and toy of that next wave that came along, and I guess he had his due, but he couldn't hold a candle to my number 5.
Oh, yeah, who's yours?
Optimus Prime.
Oh, you saving the best.
The best. I mean, Optimus Prime as a character, as a toy, everything. I mean, I love. I mean, everything about Peter Cullen's voice. Like, I'm just tickled pink that like he's stuck around all these years as Optimus Prime through these movies, and we're gonna get to the movies. But it's such a heroic, such a noble, awesome, like John Wayne like character, and the toy was amazing. It was so much fun, and I love the way he looked. And as the truck, I mean, like being able to take apart his trailer, you know, and then it did its own little thing.
Kind of make a little bass out of it.
Kind of make a little bass, and Roller was a fun little toy to play with. I enjoyed him, and Roller was kind of like his Ravage.
Yeah.
I remember the one episode where they go into the like mine shaft. He's like Roller, you know, like the mine's blowing up, and he's tumbling down the side of the mountain.
Yeah.
You know, like he was like a little R2D2 character in a way. So even his little like afterthought pieces were like had so much personality to him. I have this story where, you know, like my mom was desperately trying to get Optimus Prime for me, and like she had gone to the Children's Palace in the snowstorm. And it was either going to be like Megatron or Optimus Prime, and thankfully she picked Optimus Prime. Like, you know, like a parent, they go to the toy store. I wasn't with her, so like she sees both of them there, and it's like, oh God, I got to make a decision. It's gonna like make or break my kid. But she chose wisely, and I'm pretty sure I said Optimus Prime, but you know, she's just a mom. So she brought it home, and like I hugged the box. I still have that box. It's that special to me. Like I still have the box.
The original Optimus Prime box.
I still got the original Optimus Prime box. It's beaten up, but I've kept it. It's got the original Optimus Prime. I kept that. May not have the fists anymore. But Optimus was that toy that I would play with, even with other toys. Like I would mix him into other worlds.
Yeah.
You know, I could sit Optimus on the table and like have a little conversation with him. You're like, here's how my day's gone, Optimus. You know, like he was just so fun and charismatic, and just an amazing toy and character, and maybe my all-time favorite toy in just overall. It's Optimus Prime. And, you know, like got my Optimus Prime shirt here.
Definitely the best one.
So that's our list of our top 5. Is a great list. It's filled. It's very top heavy with G1 characters.
Yeah.
And you know, like I don't want to discriminate against the newer ones because they had a few, you know, hits, but they were mostly misses. And
and there's the Masterpiece line too. I mean, that's such a great line.
It is a great line, but I can't afford it. It's so much money. That Megatron Masterpiece.
There's a new one.
Is there really? God.
They've redone Megatron. He just came out fairly recently, like a month or so ago.
I mean, what are they, like $175, $200, something like that?
Well, it depends on which one. I mean, if you're talking about Megatron, yeah, I think he's somewhere around that.
You could get like a blue streak. Or
some of the others are like 60 to 80.
Kind of like the 25th anniversary.
Like
Prime.
I think the Bumblebee, I think you can get for like 60.
Yeah, but I don't want Bumblebee.
Bumblebee's cool.
He's okay. I mean, it's funny how like Bumblebee has gone from the kind of the relatable one to the humans. He was kind of like, you know, the friend of the humans.
Yeah.
Real kind of personal, and then he became like a little warrior kind of sort of who couldn't speak in any of the movies. The Michael Bay movies. Like they're really two completely different characters, but they're both very likable.
Yeah.
Yeah, in their own way. So we had a little bit of fun there. We're gonna have to get down to some business as far as this movie review goes of the Transformers.
Yeah, so we just saw The Last Night.
We saw The Last Night, the 5th Michael Bay Transformers movie, and I've had plenty of time to think about it. You know, when I see a Transformers movie, a Michael Bay Transformers movie, I calibrate my expectations accordingly.
Yeah.
I set them really low, and they've gotten lower and lower and lower.
With every movie, it's gotten lower and lower and lower.
I always have a little hope. They'll announce a new Transformers movie. I'll get a bit of the storyline. Okay, it's going to be something to do with night, medieval times. Unicron's going to be involved, I remember hearing. It's like, okay, there are things to work with here. This could be cool, could be fun.
Yeah.
And then you see that first trailer.
Yeah.
And that's when like you get your first kind of, you know, inkling that here we go again.
Well, and it's like when they announced that Hot Rod was going to be in it, it's like you knew immediately. It's like, well, okay, Hot Rod's going to be in it.
How are they going to screw Hot Rod up?
It's just going to be his name. It's not going to be Hot Rod. It's just going to be some character named Hot Rod.
Right. The name will be there, but that is all you're going to get. And we were right again. It's like the only thing that Michael Bay has given us is Optimus Prime is a cool character, even though he's not exactly as we remember him.
Man, I'm getting really irritated with Prime in the movies too, because it's not Prime.
He's got an edge to him nowadays.
He keeps screaming out, "I'll kill you!" He did that in the last movie. He did it in this movie. As soon as he walked up to the Quintessa, like he lands on Cybertron and he's like, what has happened to my world? I mean, you know, we can't even really tell, like, we don't know any difference, really. We don't know what it's supposed to look like. He just wakes up from,
because he's like floating out in space.
Yeah, he just lands on Cybertron. What has happened to my world? And immediately comes up to Quintessa, and just immediately he's like, what have you done to my world? I'll kill you!
It's bloodlust, man. That's not my Prime either. Like, I just got done talking about how wonderful Prime was as a character, as a role model. You know, I mean, if Prime would tell you to eat your vegetables and stay in school, like, it would not bother me. It would seem to fit. So yeah, when Prime is going around, you know, shooting first and asking questions last, it's not a good thing. And he has kind of eroded into that. And I don't know if he was pissed at the humans in the last one.
Yeah, because it was like that human was responsible for the death of so many of his comrades and friends, and so, I'll kill you!
It's like, let's talk about it, Prime.
And he like blows him away with his giant gun.
Yeah, Prime is. I'm happy to have Peter Cullen, and it seems like I've read somewhere that Peter Cullen like was unhappy with.
I would imagine he would be.
Yeah. Like he's doing the voice work, and you know, like these movies. I don't know how these movies are made very much. Like I know that they do the voice work, and then of course they animate it later.
Yeah.
So he's probably looking at the script and doing his lines, and I'm sure he probably would look at this and go like, I don't know if Prime would say this or, you know, act this certain way.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to think he's like, this is not Prime. But, you know, they're paying him to do this, so whatever.
So let's just kind of attempt to unravel this story.
This entire movie was the Jackie Chan, like, that GIF, that Jackie Chan GIF that he's like,
yeah, I'll put that up.
What is going on? That was the entire movie. I'm like,
it's so funny because we're watching the movie and we're just sort of letting it wash over us and trying to enjoy it. And I hear to my left, what the? And like I look over and I'm cracking up because, you know, when you watch a movie, you're kind of usually just enjoying
that
the
whole movie. I'm like audible sighs and like,
I could feel the eyes rolling back into your head. I could hear all the groans and the sighs. I mean, I'd never heard you be that vocal in contempt of a movie.
I don't think I ever have.
Yeah, it was noticeable. And I was feeling it too, you know, like I'm trying to enjoy it and I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt, but you can't really defend it, man, because the movie's kind of a mess.
It's a mess. It's a train wreck.
Yeah, and you even called it. You're like, I guess I'm going to have to go see this train wreck of a movie tonight. Like, who would ever thought that there'd be a day where we would kind of dread
Like,
going to see a Transformers
gonna go see
movie.
Transformers.
Like, oh, I gotta go to the dentist, you know. But we're loyal fans. We wanna hope that it's a good movie.
Yeah.
And it just really wasn't. Like, it starts out with back in the Middle Ages that they do the whole King Arthur thing, and they have Merlin.
Oh yeah, and I mean, Merlin's a drunk.
He's a drunk.
I mean, the whole thing's a joke.
Michael Bay thinks something like he has an idea of humor and he needs to knock it off. There is a signature Michael Bay humor, especially in the Transformers movie, where they do a lot of it's just weird stuff. You know, I don't really understand why he thinks that this sense of humor is funny. And you know, you're watching the movie and you're thinking, well, okay, we're starting out with a pretty intense battle scene. And then, like 2 minutes into the movie, you got Stanley Tucci's Merlin just, you know, and they're doing those cuts, like
He's
those
like,
hard
I'm
cuts.
slozzled
Yeah, he
or
goes, I'm
whatever he is.
snozzled, which
Yeah.
I laughed at the snozzled because it's a funny word, but you know, he's like, one more nip, and he drinks like the whole bottle of alcohol. So, you know, he seeks the help, like, you know, they're Lancelot and King Arthur and all of them, they're in the middle of this battle, and their odds are against them, and they're about ready to be defeated. And they're like, you know, like, Merlin will save us, don't worry, you know. And they're like, no, he won't.
No,
So
he's just a drunk.
Merlin rides off, and he seeks the help of Transformers. That's the big secret. Like, Merlin spills the beans. He's like, yeah, I know I'm kind of pathetic, and I'm a drunk, and I'm a womanizer, and everybody thinks I'm a fraud, and I am. But
Yeah, I
please
guess
help me.
He somehow
Yeah,
found them
For some reason, they give him
and
like
was
this.
keeping their secret.
Yeah.
Like they're hiding, I guess, and because he said something about keeping their secret, but whatever.
They give him this staff, which gives him the ability to, like, that, you know, dragon. They come down, they turn the tide, they win the battle. So there's that scene. And then you have the scene with Optimus floating through space out of nowhere, and then he lands on.
But we're not gonna go through like the whole movie.
No,
are we?
I guess we shouldn't, but I'm just trying to find my grounding for, like, explaining this movie. Let's just hit. Well, okay, let's do this. Let's talk about the things we liked, because it won't take long. I liked the sound. I thought the sound effects were cool. I liked. It looked pretty. You know, at least most of these Michael Bay movies have a certain style to them that's enjoyable to watch, for the most part. Anthony Hopkins. I got to talk about Anthony Hopkins. He was out there enjoying himself making this movie.
That was surprising. He was even in the movie.
Yeah, to get him in the movie, and then to play up the character that he did. He was clearly on board.
He had some cringe-worthy scenes too, like when he went to the Prime Minister's.
Shut up. It was like the Dr. Evil, you know, with Scott, when he was like doing the zip it. It was like you said, it was cringeworthy. It was like you could put on the Blu-ray case like cringeworthy in quotations, because that's most of the movie. Mark Wahlberg, I like Mark Wahlberg in most cases, but in this movie, it just once again, you know, Cade Yeager, he's this inventor. So it was hard to buy in the first place that he's an inventor, and now it's, you know, he's like this hero, and he's like the one that
I didn't even get that. Like, why did this Transformer like pass on this medallion to him?
Yeah, he finds that ancient Transformer that was from going back to the beginning of the movie, the medieval times. He's kind of chosen as worthy of being like a knight. So he's kind of our hero. I'm not really sure who's supposed to be the hero in this movie too, because there's like a lot of different characters flying around through this movie. There's him. There's the little girl who
I don't even know why the girl was there.
I don't either. They played her up in the trailers like she was going to be a big deal, but all she really ever does is kind of like bite off more than she can chew throughout the whole movie.
She had her little T-Bob looking friend that he didn't.
Squeaks.
He didn't ever do anything.
Wasn't it Squeaks?
Except Squeaks. Yeah. There was that one scene like at the end that Squeaks takes out a gun.
Squeaks had his moment.
But it was like, you know, so what?
Yeah, his like arm transformed into like this thing that caused the cannon to stop up, and it exploded. That was like a convenient transformation just for that one thing. But yeah, Squeaks was an awful character. That was her little sidekick, T-Bob looking.
I kept waiting for him to like turn into like a little scooter or something and she'd ride on him, but they didn't even do that.
No, Michael Bay is not even going to give us that.
Yeah. He didn't even seem like an actual Transformer. He seemed like one of like Cade Yeager's like inventions or something.
Yeah, she mentioned that like he couldn't transform anymore, and I think she was trying to fix him.
I mean, because like the other Transformers, like let's think about the smaller ones like Wheelie, because they showed Wheelie again like from the second movie.
Oh God.
I mean, and he's so like animated with the facial expressions and everything, but then Squeaks is just like headlights for eyes, and like R2D2 doesn't
Well, it looked like a practical effect, whereas all the other Transformers are all digital.
Well, and I read that they did actually make a Squeaks that for the girl requested it or something.
Well, maybe she needed it to act against. It's hard to act with tennis balls, like in the green
and that's
screens.
fine, but it didn't seem like he fit in with anybody else.
No, he didn't have any of the look of the Transformers. They attached a Decepticon arm to him at one point. But yeah, let's talk about the junkyard stuff, where a lot of the WTF moments happen, like the Dinobots, the little mini Dinobots. There's all these like weird scenes with like Grimlock.
Those little baby Dinobots, where'd they come from?
Yeah, I don't know. Can they have kids? I don't know. Grimlock swallows the police car and he's like barfing it up.
Yeah,
like, they set that scene up too.
He's like yelling at Grimlock, "Spit out that car!"
Yeah, and it's all so cringeworthy and bad. And they took so much time to set that scene up. Like
he's his pet dog or something.
Yeah, like he's a junkyard dog. He calls him like a junkyard dog, I think, even at one point in the movie. But you got Hound and the green car. I forget his name, and the one that's kind of like a samurai or whatever. Like none of these characters.
Drift. I forget the green one's name, like you, but yeah, Drift.
None of them are interesting in the least. I mean.
Yeah.
And one of them is voiced by John Goodman, who I love.
Yeah.
I love John Goodman, but like even his all his dialogue is awful. Get down with the Hound. Like he was the one that had all the little spouting the catchphrases and stuff.
And so and Barricade is back.
Barricade
is back?
I thought
he died in like the first movie, or I don't know.
Yeah, he got ripped apart by Bumblebee and got his head lopped off.
Yeah, so he's back somehow. And
yeah, I don't understand. Like the Transformers movies have all had a history of like kind of contradicting their own previous movies.
Well, like Bumblebee's voice.
Oh God, let's talk about Bumblebee's voice.
Ratchet fixed it in the first movie, and then like every movie afterwards, it's been still with like the radio clips and whatever.
I remember listening to that. They were making a big deal out of it.
And so there's even they made like a huge deal out of it. And this time, because so Prime goes evil. He's Nemesis Prime.
Yeah,
right?
it plays a part in the movie.
Yeah, and so he ends up being snapped out of being Nemesis Prime because all of a sudden Bumblebee's able to speak. And that snaps him out of it, like
Bumblebee, my friend. I haven't heard your voice.
I haven't heard your voice since the end of Cybertron or something. Since the fall of Cybertron, I haven't heard your voice, old friend. And that snaps him out of being evil.
How lazy, how half-assed is it that you can't even like look back at your own movie?
You haven't heard his voice since the fall of Cybertron. What about since the end of the first movie when Ratchet fixed it?
So terrible. And let's talk about that scene too. The scene where Bumblebee says something like they're fighting. It's a cool scene. They're fighting. And then he like has that moment where like I felt it kind of was like the Martha moment from Batman v Superman, where it was very convenient. Like it should have meant something, but it was like so cringeworthy even then because you can't forgive it for like forgetting in its own universe that Bumblebee has spoken. He got his voice back, and then they just kind of like forgot about it throughout the other movies.
And then it's like they defeat Quintessa just for like. Surprise, because Prime's like fighting her or whatever, and
Prime's like
she acts like, oh, you think you're actually gonna defeat me, and like say hello to my little friend. What? Oh, Bumblebee's right behind you. Boom, you're dead.
Might as well say sting like a bee. It's like, oh God,
it was so terrible.
There were a couple good moments too. Like, let's talk about Frank Welker.
I was sitting there like, is he really going, say hello to my friend?
Bumblebee. Yeah, they did, and like they defeated the bad guy like that. The girl, Vanessa or Vivian or whatever her name was.
Vivian, I think.
Yeah, she who, by the way, is a descendant of Merlin. Okay. Like, her DNA is the only thing that can activate
and here's
the
the thing that got me, like, as soon as she was introduced, I'm sitting there thinking, like, does she look like Megan Fox to you? Why does she look like a Megan Fox clone? And so I end up looking her up on IMDb, and she looks nothing like that. She's got like blonde hair and stuff. But in the movie, she's made up and then looks like Megan Fox.
It's odd. And I didn't really put that together like as you were putting it together watching the movie, but I did on my own look up the actors, which I always do. Like, I like to go to IMDb and see who's in the movie, what other stuff they've been in. I saw her, and like, she had really light colored hair, like blonde almost.
Yeah, she looks totally different.
Yeah, so I'm like, why does she have dark hair? And she's wearing the like really tight clothes. I think even at one point, like, Mark Wahlberg says she has like a stripper dress on, which you might have missed. I don't know. There was some really bad dialogue going on back and forth. Like, Mark Wahlberg and her had zero chemistry in the movie.
And she changed her outfit like 4 times at the end of the movie, like after the submarine. Like, you know, the submarine was like the big, like, kind of pivotal point where, you know, everything's starting to go down.
Right.
And, you know, there's no more clothes.
She didn't pack a bag.
Yeah, I mean, because she had already like changed clothes before that point, because they went home to like go find something, and she's like, let me go change out of this. Okay, whatever. And so she changes clothes at that point, and then they go to the submarine, right? And so she's wearing like this one outfit, and inside the submarine it's getting hot or something, and so she takes off, like, I guess, this outer shirt.
Yeah.
So now inside it's a different outfit again, and then they get to where they're going. They get out of the submarine, and somehow she's got on this green sweater. Where'd that come from?
She had more wardrobe changes than like Madonna in a Madonna concert. I mean,
and then,
like,
you know,
crazy.
they meet up with like the what was that group called, like the TFR or
TRF.
something? TRF. They meet up with them.
Anti-transformer unit.
They give her like a flight suit, and so she's wearing a flight suit. At least that one you can kind of be like, well,
it's funny that they had time to change. Like, whatever.
It was so dumb.
Speaking of that scene where they go back to her house, what about those like women? Like, it was like her mom and like her
like
drunky friends,
probably like her aunts or something.
Right. I mean, they were like, couldn't stop talking about how like she needed to find a man, and then of course Mark Wahlberg walks in. He's like, oh. And they're like being all nosy and following up, and I guess like it's supposed to be like they're upstairs like turning stuff over in the office trying to find something.
Yeah, and so it sounded
like they were having sex. I guess.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. It's the stupid humor that Michael Bay keeps doing.
Stupid.
I wanna give shout out to Frank Welker, because it was really cool.
That was the cool thing. Yeah, you were talking before about like the one thing I liked.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as Megatron spoke, that was it.
Frank Welker.
That was the
finally
one thing.
got Frank Welker. What may very well be the last Transformers movie. Probably not, but maybe. He finally
How
gets
was there
his
even
due.
Megatron in the first place?
That's right. He turned into Galvatron.
Yeah, the last movie, Megatron became Galvatron because he was like a head in a box. And he like transferred like his consciousness or whatever into like that body that the humans made with Transformium.
Oh God, Transformium.
And so he became Galvatron.
So stupid.
So, and now this movie starts. Again, I don't even remember the other movie, but this movie starts and here's Megatron.
And he's not even like in bad shape. Like, he kind of was in.
Yeah,
ever since the first movie, he was in worse and worse shape.
Yeah, at least before they kind of act like he's been defeated a few times and he's all beat up and
he's perfectly good now. Which, all right, fine. You got Frank Welker to be on board. I guess you might as well get him back to full strength. And
they kind of act like he's been like keeping quiet for a while, though.
Right?
Like, just kind of like sitting in a corner by himself.
It was really cool to hear Frank Welker in that role. The role that like I remember him most for, like Frank Welker, like you talk about Casey Kasem having a lot of roles. Like Frank Welker is like the granddaddy of voice acting.
Yes.
I mean, that dude was like Slimer. He was
Man, you
Venkman.
name a character, chances are he was probably involved.
Yeah, he's in everything. Like if you have time, IMDb Frank Welker. He was Fred from Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
The original Fred.
Yeah.
Way back. So the dude's super talented, and I'm glad to finally get to see him in a role that I think, to me, I'm biased, of course, being Transformers.
That was the one shining part of the movie.
Let's talk about the scene where Megatron gets his crew back together.
Oh no, let's not. No.
Oh, come on, man. We got to talk about
The Suicide Squad.
The Suicide Squad scene, yeah. So they Megatron, they decide that they know Prime's out, I guess. Like, the Prime is a threat, so they decide they're going to use Megatron.
And so he's negotiating with the humans to release Decepticons? That didn't make sense at all to me.
I guess Megatron's trying to use the humans to locate the staff or whatever. So he's playing ball, but like the humans are using him to locate.
And so he's
I don't
listing
know.
names. And so, of course, as soon as he says a name, there's like the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, they freeze frame. They show like this stenciled on name.
There's their name.
And man, these characters are so awful. They were like Revenge of the Fallen terrible characters.
One guy was like a bank robber.
Yeah, they were like, well, they would he would say the name, they'd do the freeze frame, and then they would kind of explain why they were in, I guess, jail or whatever, like Transformer jail. One was a bank robber who he just basically blew up a bank. And then there was like another one who was like, say hey to your wife for me.
Like a bank robber.
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It was the dumbest. Like, I was watching that scene thinking, am I really watching this? I know you were too. It should have been fun, but it sucked. It was so stupid. You got another Wheelie-like character with that
Mohawk.
Mohawk, yeah. Just so stupid. And then they had like
He looked
teased
like
one.
like a lizard, like a chameleon.
He
or
did kind of
something.
have a lizard kind of look to him. So, they do that whole scene. They get the crew together, and I just don't know
Megatron's
why
got
they
his
did
squad.
that. He's got his squad to go find Cade Yeager, and then, some shit happens. They go from point A to point B. They make their way to England, and, let's talk about the butler guy a little bit.
The C-3PO.
You are needed, sir. Kindly come with me.
I'll swat this metal cockroach for
Bring it on.
Run off with some crazy ninja butler?
Cogman. Yeah, they even at one point said the cheap C-3O,
Yeah, I think Hound or
C-3PO.
somebody said that.
Oh, well, it was like Drift or one of them.
Yeah, one of them
And he like
said it.
kind of grabs his hand, and he's smaller
Oh
than...
yeah, he pulled his finger back.
Yeah, he like broke his hand. Like, again, he should have been a character that was fun, but he was just cringeworthy, dude.
Oh, especially in the scene where they were like inside and he kept like playing the organ or something.
Yeah,
and
there's
it's like, dude, stop.
Yeah, Anthony Hopkins is kind of telling these epic story of the Witwickens and all these things. And it's real important, and you got that score from the movie, but then they show like him like playing the organ,
All dramatic.
Yeah, and then like another time he was singing opera. God, I was just like, please stop this. So,
and there's Hot Rod. That they introduced Hot Rod about that
we
time.
teased Hot Rod. Let's bitch about Hot Rod for a minute. Frenchie.
He's a Frenchie now with time stop powers.
Well, first he's like this old kind of English sports car, and his whole purpose is really to transfer Vivian back to Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, he was like her car the entire time, but now
he was like a plant.
Yeah.
So he gets her, like she gets in the car and she's driving her, or he's driving her to where she's supposed to go.
And
she's trying to get out, and she's like, at one point she gets kicked back into the trunk of the car, and then they do that thing where, from the first movie, where
that
he kind of
Bumblebee did, where he changed cars.
Yeah, it just like scans a car, and then like,
oh, that car looks
all
cool.
all physical properties of matter like change, because like he goes from this little sports car to this like really like sexy Lamborghini car.
And now she's in the front seat all of a sudden.
Yeah, she moves from the back seat to the front seat, and he speaks. And he's like, please don't hurt me. And you're like, cleaning out your ear, like rubbing your ear, like, what? And yeah, you're right.
Why is he talking with a French accent?
I don't know, man. Like, but he did. You're right. He had that ability to slow down time, which again could have been cool, but like it was just used in the dumbest ways. And I think you were using the bathroom. I'm sure you weren't missing the movie. Like you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna go take a nice long dump and like not really care about what I'm missing. So you missed a few scenes, but like one of the scenes was, I guess she was like, why does he have a French accent? And Anthony Hopkins was like, he just likes the accent. So I guess he just decided he wanted to talk that way.
He just likes it. So
but then
whatever.
you did some investigating, and the real reason why he had a French accent was...
Oh, because Michael Bay thought it would be cool. Yeah.
You, Michael Bay. I'm just going to say it. Can't stand the guy. All right, I'm going to get on my horse for just a minute here. Michael Bay directs these Transformers movies like they're the 90s. He takes material that has a proven source, like cool source material, like from the comics to the cartoon to the movies, whatever. There's all kinds of cool source material to pull from, but he ignores everything.
Because he just does whatever he thinks is going to be cool.
It's like the whole, you know, like they would make a movie like The Punisher or He-Man, The Masters of the Universe. It's like, we'll take the idea and then we'll take it from here, kids. We know it's best. We're going to make this movie the way we think it should be made. And he just continues to do that, where you look at Marvel, you know, you look at DC and Warner Brothers, like they take it more seriously.
I get artistic licensing, but he just takes it too far.
In a day and age when you just don't have to do it that way, like they really could they could take a cool story from the comics or even like a mini-series from the cartoon and do something cool.
I mean, you know, because of the Marvel movies, they do that, but there are differences. You know, the movies are definitely different than what
and
the
they
comic
do that because
story
they don't
was.
have the rights to all the characters.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, yeah, that's true to a point, but not necessarily.
Well, it may not fit to a movie too. Like they gotta trim it some.
Yeah.
Like the Phoenix Saga from the X-Men movies, like they never came
Well,
quite
we
right.
won't talk about the X-Men movies.
Sorry, that's another sort. Not as bad as the Transformers movies.
If you're going to talk about the Marvel movies and say the Marvel movies are good, then you don't talk about the X-Men movies.
Okay, well, technically they're Fox. That's not Marvel Studios. Let's stick to the point of the Marvel Studios and then DC, you know, they have their issues.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're trying.
Yeah.
They want to make a good movie. They really do. They just have some missteps here and there. But Michael Bay just continues to shit all over this beloved franchise that people want to go see. And for what? Because it plays good in China? You know? Like, I can only assume that this style of movie is, like, popular overseas. And maybe I'm giving him too much a benefit of the doubt here. But these movies do make a boatload of money overseas. And, like, it was the lowest opening gross in domestically of all the Transformers movies. Not surprising because instantly people jumped on it. But overseas, it's making like a buku bucks, man.
I guess they just don't know any better. I don't know.
I guess I don't know, but like they cater to, you know, like even like the scene where Cybertron's on Earth and it's scraping away the cities and it showed Hong Kong.
Well, you know, back up. You mentioned Cybertron. It reminded me. Wasn't was it the third movie where they were opening up like a wormhole or whatever, and Cybertron was like coming to Earth, and then, you know, when they saved the day and they closed off like that portal, it like cut off like a chunk of Cybertron or whatever. What happened to that?
Man, they don't give a damn. They just don't care. I feel like they stopped really trying after.
Because we've already done the, you know, Cybertron coming to Earth thing, and that they were doing that again with this movie, and the Unicron is the Earth.
Unicron is Earth. I'm sorry, people.
Earth is Unicron.
Earth is Unicron. Unicron is Earth. Like the horns are showing up out of nowhere. There's like 6 horns, and you got John Turturro's character is back, and he's even zanier and crazier than ever.
And you learn this in like the middle of the movie, that they just flat out tell you that the Earth is an ancient transformer called Unicron. They just flat out tell you that. And then the movie ends and they have a post-credit scene that's really like a post credit screen, because they do it like right before like the credits even really start rolling.
Yeah, they show like Hasbro and then Michael Bay, and then they go right to it.
And then just to say again that, oh, by the way, in case you forgot, Unicron's the Earth, so we're not done with this yet. There's still more to go. It's like that's how you're going to use your post credit scene. It's just to like reiterate something you already told us.
Yeah, isn't that supposed to be for like a little surprise, like something to entice you to come back for the next movie? I hope there's not another movie. I do. They gotta stop. You gotta stop, Michael Bay.
Gotta stop.
Just please stop. I have very little hope for the Bumblebee movie even. Speaking of Bumblebee, there was that scene where like he was a fighter in like supposedly Nazi Germany, which sets me off to another point of this movie. They are positing the idea that the Transformers have not only just been around for long enough to find Sam, and then the aliens come to Earth. Like apparently they're involved in every major historical
like ever.
Yeah.
But each time it's like people have never seen Transformers before.
Right. You know, like they showed like a montage where there's like they're George Washington, but there's like a Transformer behind him. You know, they'd show like Albert Einstein, the Wright brothers, Transformers. Everything. Transformers helped turn the tide against the Nazis in World War II. Like, how can they seriously talk about these things when the movie started out, the series or the franchise started out so earnestly? You know, like Bumblebee was there first to scout, and then everyone arrived. And really, the first Transformers movie is the only good one of the series. And I think part of the reason why is because it had Steven Spielberg attached to it. So there was kind of this Steven Spielbergian kind of quality to the movie, the way it felt. And even though he's been a producer on the movie every time since, none of these movies have any semblance of a Steven Spielberg quality movie. It's like he's just collecting a paycheck. You got to stop it, Steven Spielberg. Your good name is getting sullied with these horrible movies.
So, you started talking about Cybertron kind of scraping on the Earth.
Yeah.
Let's back up a little bit to where it was at the moon.
No,
remember, it's
we're jumping all over the place. This movie practically jumps all over the place.
This movie, so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Cybertron is like scraping across like the surface of the moon, like it's destroying the moon or something.
Yeah.
But then, the next scene, it's on Earth. What happened to the moon? Did it go through the moon? Is the moon gone? If the moon's gone, there's problems.
Yeah. There's big problems with Earth.
I don't even know. Like,
destroyed.
did it like just scrape on it and then just kind of go around?
I don't know.
What happened to that?
Well, they showed that scene where it's scraping through the moon and it's knocking the old ship from Dark of the Moon in the second movie.
Yeah.
And then they always show the moon in the Transformers movies. And then it's enclosing on Earth, and it's this imminent, gigantic, like when you see
it got to the Earth.
No, you know what?
Super fast. Too.
Okay, I do remember a scene now where they're back at the junkyard and the little girl was running. She goes, "There's 2 moons."
Yeah.
So maybe it did just miss the moon.
I guess it was like to the side of the moon.
Yeah, maybe it just scraped
it. Because it was like.
I don't know how it scraped it and not destroyed it. And then they try to have an explanation like, well, I don't even know why they had this scene. They were trying to explain why they missed it.
Cybertron all like falling apart.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like got tentacles or something, and just it's terrible. It's just a mess. It's a bad movie. Horrible.
And what about that scene where I think it was when they're on the sub, right? And there was that medallion the medallion would transform. And it would usually it attached itself to Cade's arm, and it just stayed there.
It was clinging to him.
And the funniest part was long before that, when somebody pointed out the medallion, that pointed out to him that it's never going to leave him, and it's laying on the ground next to him, and they're like, that medallion will never leave you. It already left him because it had already attached itself to his arm before that, but it came off his arm and is left him just so the one guy can say that's never going to leave you, and then it just goes back on his arm again.
Yeah, and then they showed a couple scenes where it saved him one time, he got shot, but it was
it kind of moved over as though block the bullet or whatever.
Yeah, it knew to be there. And then but the sub scene, go on and finish with that, man.
When
It's like slithering around his body. Mark Wahlberg takes his shirt off, I guess, for like the ladies, and this Vivian
happens to walk in right then,
who to this point was really disgusted by him. She just wasn't into him, but all of a sudden, like, she's turned on, and she
sees him without a shirt, and like, oh.
And it slithers around, and then it goes down
right down his pants. Why? Why did it do that?
But she was hot and bothered by this. She was just like, "Oh, should we check it out?" I mean, is it tight? And he's playing dumb. Like,
I was like, ugh.
Oh God, it's Michael Bay strikes again with this stupid kid humor. Like,
it was so stupid. Like, why would the thing even do that?
It was just an excuse for Michael Bay to get a junk joke in there, I guess. I don't know what it is. The one true laugh that I got was that, speaking of the sub scene, when the Cogman guy shoots himself out like a torpedo, and Mark Wahlberg says off camera, I don't know, even that Mark Wahlberg voice, like, "Those are your peoples," you know, like, because like he's English and she's English. This is funny. It was like the only funny laugh I got, and it was like an afterthought laugh.
That guy went out to get fish to make him like sushi or something.
Yeah, he was trying to.
Why was he trying to hook him up?
I don't know. Because then he tried to stop him from having sex, like, you know.
I don't understand.
The movie's awful. I mean, if you couldn't tell, we weren't big fans of the movie.
Oh, and Bumblebee can now just like split apart like on.
Oh yeah. He had the big scene where, like, you know, like every Transformers movie has like this one or two like really cool slow motion scenes.
And this was pretty early on, like at the junkyard, and he kind of like humans are shooting at him and stuff, and so
Mark Wahlberg's in trouble.
Kind of acts like he's being blown apart, like, "Oh, you got me."
He falls apart. He gets shot once and blown apart.
And so then like all the pieces like starts, they're like they got a mind of their own and start taking out like each of the soldiers that are spread, you know, have them surrounded. Yeah. And he just kind of reforms.
Remember, his head was like laying on the ground and it like attached to the soldier's ankle.
Yeah, like normally it's been shown like when you decapitate one of the Transformers, they're dead. But Bumblebee's just shown like
it happens a lot. In the
he can split apart. It doesn't matter.
Even Prime's got that one scene where he decapitates all of the heads of that.
Oh yeah, that
Gestalt
like,
thing that showed up for a second.
Who was that?
I have no idea, but he was kind of cool, and he had like horns and shit. It was like a lackey of Quintessa. And another thing, Quintessa, was she a Quintesson?
I guess they kept saying Quintessons are in the movie, but it just seemed like more of a name than anything.
Was it just like Michael Bay had heard of Quintessons and
that's
thought
what
they
I'm gonna
sounded
say,
cool?
man, because he's saying she's the creator of all Transformers.
She was just really like a sexy computer program.
He read about the Quintessons from somewhere, that they come from the planet Quintessa, and he's going to name her Quintessa.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
That's just all it is.
He just read a name, and hey, I like that.
The thing that's really disappointing about these movies is Michael Bay said he was going to retire from making the Transformers movies after the Shia LaBeouf run.
He says that every movie.
He said it.
He said it now.
He said it for sure.
I hope he keeps his word.
I hope so too, honest to God. But then, you know, Paramount came out with this thing like, well, we want to bring out a Transformers movie like of some kind, like every year, like the Star Wars treatment. Like they got the Bumblebee movie coming out. They want to do some spin-offs. And apparently like they had this big like closed door writers room discussion. And the story goes that Michael Bay was gonna step aside, but out of these, you know, talks, that I guess he liked what he was hearing so much that he was like, I'm coming back to direct a movie.
Yeah,
and that was Age of Extinction. Yeah. And then, like you said, he was like, I'm gonna hang it up. Age of Extinction makes $1 billion. So back comes Michael Bay, because like it doesn't really matter how the movie turns out as long as it makes $1 billion. It's hard to argue.
I think the only reason it even did was because they had Dinobots, and so everybody's like, "Yo, finally Dinobots! Let's go watch it!" And it was terrible.
Yeah, the Dinobots were only slightly better, I think, in this one.
And I even remember when we were watching that movie, you know, we're hours into it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, where are the Dinobots?
Where the hell are the Dinobots? They're like in the movie poster.
They're in the very end of the movie.
Yeah, and like Optimus is riding Grimlock.
Man, and this movie was so long.
This movie would have been a lot better if it was like an hour shorter. Probably. Because then you cut out all those awkward, cringeworthy, like the Prime Minister scene. Like, we don't need that.
I don't even know why he went there.
I don't know.
Because then all he did was just go to Stonehenge.
Yeah, I don't know. Good point, man. It eroded my brain. Like, I can't even, like, remember. Like, it's starting to have that Age of Extinction effect where I can barely remember, like, what happened in the movie.
I don't know.
So that... Is there anything else that we can think about?
I don't think there's anything else. I think that's it. It's, yeah, so how would you rate that movie?
Okay. On a Transformer scale, I'd give it a 4. On a movie scale, a 2.
I give this movie a great big Jackie Chan gif.
What? Two Jackie Chan gifs. Okay, let's rank the movies in the universe or in this series. Like, how would you rank the movies overall?
For me, straight in order. The best was 1, 2, 3, downhill, 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 downhill. They just all downhill.
Just downhill. It's hard to argue with that. I would still rank the original Transformers, like, is here. Dark of the Moon is, like, here. Revenge of the... Okay, well, I'll say that these last two movies are, like, here. And Revenge of the Fallen's, like, here. Because Devastator's balls. And the humor. The potty humor. And the racist, like, characters.
I mean, I can't deny all that. You're absolutely right.
You forever get a strike against, a movie when you mess up Devastator that bad. When you turn him into a weird dragon with clinging nuts. Like...
He was like a gorilla.
I don't know what he was. But, yeah. I understand what you're saying. And that second movie really was the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
It was hugely disappointing. They won me back a little bit with Dark of the Moon, but then it's just been...
And there's like that whole scene with like his mom getting high on college pot brownies.
Oh, Sam's parents?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were cute and charming
so
at first.
Dumb.
I know. It's that Michael Bay humor, man. And I like... Michael Bay's capable of making a good movie. Like, I saw this movie recently. It was like 13. It's about, like, I think, like, Benghazi, and like, it's action packed, but it was like a story is being told, and there's none of that goofball humor. I guess because it's like based on a true story and it's sensitive. And he had, he was interested in making that movie. But even movies like The Rock, the Bad Boys movies, they weren't this bad. There was a little bit of goofball humor, but the Transformers movies are just off the rails bad. It's not a good movie. I feel sorry for Frank Welker and Peter Cullen. They deserve to have made movies that are better than this.
Mm-hmm.
And please just stop making these movies. If you're going to make them like this, I think they've exhausted any cool lore. There's nothing left.
Yeah.
The Unicron was like the last Hail Mary, pass that they had.
Yeah, and now that I know Unicron is Earth, I don't even want to see him.
How are they going to handle that? Like, they're talking about rebuilding their two worlds, and they're kind of clung together now.
Yeah, that's how the movie ends. Cybertron and Earth, like, kissing each other, and just, together we shall rebuild our two worlds. The end.
Yeah, I do want to mention one more thing that I found really funny about this movie is Optimus Prime's not in this movie a lot. But when he's in it, he's constantly reminding us of who he is.
I am Optimus Prime.
I am Nemesis Prime. Like, anytime he would go off screen and come back...
Have you forgotten who I am? I am Optimus Prime.
It was so funny, dude. It's like, how are they doing this? Like, how do you ruin Optimus Prime even? And they tried to give him that, speech after he became, like, good again. they try to have that scene where he's trying to give that up, like, this day we will,
and the
they
other
will
guys are
remember
like,
us.
that guy's so cool.
Yeah. Well, like, he was like, chills every time. I'm like, he wasn't that good of a speech, man. Not really. He just said this, like, the same shit he always says, and then he blasts off and then disappears for a while. Remember, he blasts off, he disappears for a while, shows up on the dragon thing to take out the bad guys at the end. This movie's bad. It's a waste because they tried. I keep getting back into it because I keep thinking of more shit.
We've already rated it.
We rated it, but it's like they brought back all these characters for continuity's sake, but they just did jack shit with them. Josh Duhamel's character, and they brought back the colonel guy or the general guy, and they brought back Sector 7 guy and Wheelie of all characters.
Yeah, Sector 7 guy, like in Cuba with like that Transformer.
Yeah, apparently like the Transformers have like asylum, in Cuba because Fidel Castro.
Yeah, they were banned everywhere else except for Cuba.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Bad movie. Not good. I can't even in good conscience recommend it for a Transformers fan.
I can't.
I feel obligated to see it, but now that I've seen it, I just wish... Well, Mark Wahlberg said he doesn't want to do another one. Michael Bay says he's done. Let's hope for the Bumblebee movie to be okay.
Let's hope.
It's going to be set in the 80s. Maybe
we'll end up seeing it.
As long as Michael Bay is anywhere near that movie, it's going to suck balls. Like, it's going to suck Devastator balls. Seriously. So, anyway, tell us how you really feel, right? That's our review of Transformers The Last Night. It sucks. It's not good. It's a mess.
Can't be recommended.
It's too long. It's loud. It's jittery. Like, I think I had a headache at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, it's just not good. It just jars you. So, pass. No good. So anyway, that's our show. That was our special Transformers show. Thanks again for tuning in. A little bit of housekeeping. We're on podcasts everywhere. You can check us out on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. I was trying to get us on Spotify, but it's really hard to get on Spotify. But for now, you can get us. You can find us on those spots. If you wouldn't mind, please just liking the video, leave a comment, let us know what you liked or didn't like about the movie. What were your favorite Transformers? We got a whole new generation with their own Transformers.
Yeah.
We didn't mention, we stopped at G1, but there's a whole...
there's so many.
So many Transformers to choose from. And, your Transformers might... Like, what was your Optimus Prime?
And it was so hard just for us to even come up with the ones we did, really.
It's really tough. I could do a top 20.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell us who you liked. Please subscribe. I'm really blown away by all the subscribers that we've been able to accumulate in the short amount of time that we've been around.
Oh yeah, thanks a lot.
Yep. But until next week, I've been Ron Avis.
And I'm Nick Wright.
We'll see you next time.